Hello and welcome to another episode of Upward Trajectory. Today I'm so happy to be joined by Vicki Wusche. Thank you so much for being here, Vicki.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for having me.
And Vicki's got an amazing story of going through a traumatic time and a marriage that was just falling apart. And after speaking with her, I knew I had to have her on because I know that there's other people going through similar trials right now, especially with the whole COVID thing and being, locked up. And I just wanted her to share her story and her coming out on the other side where she's at now, just to kind of give people some hope that need to hear it. So thanks so much, Vicki, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. How do you want me to start? Do you want me to do the whole little synopsis of history?
Yeah, if you could just kind of give us a nutshell, what all happens, and then I'd like to obviously talk more about where you are now. But if you could just kind of give us your backstory, just so people have an understanding of what happened, that would be great.
Okay. So like most people, I was quite young when I got married. I think I managed to make it to my 21st birthday before I actually got married. But
Wow.
we were already living together in a relationship before that for a couple of years. And I can't say things were perfect in the relationship, but I recognized I have a fault of loyalty. So loyalty would be seen to be a virtue that would be nice to have, but it's a double-edged loyalty.
Oh,
So I was loyal to a fault, and we got married, and the first year or so were fine, and we had our first daughter, and then things got really difficult. And when I say things got really difficult, actually it was like a magnifying glass on everything that had been there before. And I think that's what people experience when they're locked in COVID, is the
absolutely.
magnifying glass comes out. So I had
Absolutely.
been, young, free and single, even if I was young, married and whatever before, and I had a job and everything else. And then once I had my daughter, I was at home on maternity leave, and things intensify. And that's when you can start to see the holes in the relationship. And in my case, it wasn't just, oh, you're so annoying, you leave your socks on the floor, and why don't you put the toilet seat down, and you never wash up. It wasn't a series of, significant things if they really bother you, but it wasn't a series of little things. It was an aggressive, dominating, bullying relationship that, with history, I can now see that I had been geographically and emotionally removed from family and friends
Oh,
by my partner. And I'd been put in a position where I was isolated, and therefore the control balance sort of shifted. There was no girl mate to say to me, really, he said that? Oh, I don't think that about you. Or no girl mate to say, oh my God, you're the best friend that I've ever got. There was no one to give me any sort of praise. There was just this constant drip, drip, drip of sort of negativity and criticism and all the things that I was doing wrong. And it starts to eat at your soul.
it
And I
does.
remember clearly at the time thinking, it's like a brick wall. Our marriage was a brick wall made up of all the little bricks of love that we had. We were strong. And every time one of these things happened, it knocked a brick off. And the bricks were piling up on the other side, and I wasn't able to reach them and put them back up to make our strong wall of love anymore. It was just being destroyed.
Oh, wow. That's a great analogy, but an awful thing to realize that's happening. So what did you do?
Left. But I'd like to say that I was strong and determined, and I made a clear decision to leave. It wasn't like that at all. I dreamt about leaving. I thought to myself, because you can tell by the accent, I'm obviously in the UK. Although maybe not obviously, but I am in the UK, and we have a system where I could have gone to the council and I could have asked the council for help. I had two wonderful parents and a sister. I could have gone to them for help, but I was embarrassed to share what I saw as a failure and a humiliation that I didn't want to share. I wanted to sort it for myself. And I kept thinking of all these ways, I could do this, I could do that, and none of it really was working for me. And then one awful night, we had an argument, something about lumpy gravy, and it resulted in my then husband putting his hands around my neck. And I remember saying goodbye to my children, apologizing to my parents. I had sparkly lights, like twinkly lights. And instead of then fighting, I'd been fighting up until then, and I realized, because he was more than 6 foot, that I wasn't going to win. I did my goodbyes. Having done my goodbyes, I went, go on then. It mentally went, go on then, just get it over and done with. What am I fighting for? I'm not going to win. I may as well just give in.
Wow.
And my 2 daughters were across the hall asleep in their bedrooms. And that was it. And he stopped. I don't know how. I don't know if it was in that moment of giving in or whether that was a coincidence, but he stopped. There was this ice cold water just rained over the room then, that ice cold feeling. And that was it. That line had been drawn. I mean, there'd been various sort of pushings before, or he would stand in the door to berate me, and then I would try and climb out of a window or walk out of another door if there was another door to get out of. But this was the first and only truly physical incident, and it crossed a line, and I wasn't going to stay in a house. And I think it's the fact that I was maybe a mother and responsible for 2 girls, or am I adding that on afterwards? I don't know. But was it that made me then go, I have to do something about this for the sake of my daughters? Or if I'd been single, might I still have thought that's enough? I'm not sure. I've several times put the fact that I was a mother as the thing that gives me the strength, but I'm not sure if that's totally true.
Yeah, but regardless, you drew on strength. You had to have to leave, because that's a really hard thing to do, and a lot of people will make excuses. And I've heard this before. They'll make excuses for the person that's doing this wrong, and give them another chance, and it just snowballs into what, unfortunately, what you had said. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And there's a line, and then they cross it, and there's another line, and then they cross it, and it's really to the point of, well, what is your enough? What is the point where you've reached your I'm not doing this anymore, this is it? And finding that inner strength. And just so you left, and that had to have been very, very difficult for you to do. So I commend you for that, because I think that is where a lot of people struggle to say, I'm in a bad place and I need out, but there's the buts. He provides income, or there's this, and they make excuses and they stay. So what would you do? What would you say to people who are maybe in a similar situation, and they know that they need to leave, but they need to find that inner strength to do so?
If you haven't already found the inner strength to go, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for your partner to put you in hospital or worse? What are you waiting for? If there are a series of things, and you've got to think about this, is this just, and I'm sorry to say if it's a man, I'm going to use a man because that's my relationship, but your partner, whoever it is, are they just a messy partner? Are they an annoying partner? Do they snore? Do they, just have habits that you don't like? And actually, you've seen this more because you've got together. And what's happened is you've got lazy in a relationship. So you can talk about it and you can say, okay, can we share one thing each that annoys us? All right, you don't put the toilet seat down, but I never wash up after a meal. Or we never wash up, or you wash up and I never put away, whatever it is. And so is it something that you can talk about? But if you are in a coercive relationship, and you will know that you're in that sort of a relationship, I only realized it with hindsight, but deep down, I knew all the signs were there, even before we got married. If you're in a relationship where you don't feel you have anyone to speak to, but you have living parents, living siblings, cousins, a best friend you now don't see that often, if you're in that situation, ask yourself the question, have you been isolated by your partner? And now that you're isolated, is your partner exerting their will and their opinions on you? And if that's true, you are in a relationship from which there is no negotiating. There's no way out of this. Your only way out of this relationship is for you to leave. And you have to find that way to go and ask for help. You have to. I wish that I had asked for help sooner. And if I could say something to any women or any men out there, because it can equally happen the other way around. If there are any men out there whose relationships are coercive, if you feel that the person you're supposed to be in love with and who's supposed to love you is putting you down and not supporting you to be the best person you can be, that is not a healthy relationship. You need help to leave.
Yes. And so very profound. I love that what you've said, and that people know, they do know. And like you said, the hindsight is there too. So you were able to leave. What did you do first when you left? How did you pick your life back up and get to the point where you're at now?
Okay. So there were a couple of things on that night. I made him leave, and he walked out the house, and he then just slept in the garage that night. And I can't remember what day of the week it was, but he came back and he made a plan to go away for the weekend to give us a bit of space. I made a plan that weekend I would go to my parents. We were having work done in the house, and when I packed up, I knew I was never coming back to the house that I lived in. So I took whatever I could. As I say, I had 2 small children, so I packed things. My parents thought I was just coming for the weekend, and it was only when I got there on the Friday, my father came home for work, and then I sat them and my sister in the kitchen, and I don't know if I told them about the whole hands around my throat strangling thing, but I said, my marriage is over and I'm not going back, and they were suitably shocked and just incredibly loving, as you would expect your parents to be, incredibly supportive, not interfering or influencing or overtly critical of him, but just focused on me. And that light on me recharged all my batteries that I hadn't realized had been depleted over the last sort of 2 to 3 years. Very, very specifically, what I did was that night I got on the phone to the Samaritans. I don't know if you have the Samaritans in the States, but basically a telephone number you can ring up and share your challenges with, you know, if you're stressed or sad or even suicidal. It's a helpline that you can phone. Amazing people, all run by volunteers in the UK. And I phoned up and I spent 3 hours on the phone with this woman, just telling her everything. I didn't want to tell all the dirty, nasty stuff to my parents. I didn't want my parents to be hurt. But I knew that, if you excuse the analogy here, that it was a spot or an abscess or a cyst, and I needed to squeeze out the bad in order to heal.
You do.
And
You need to get that out, because it will eat away inside if you hold those on. It's like a cancer. Literally, it is, like you
I
described
totally
it.
agree. I totally agree with you. And I do wonder sometimes whether people hold on to things and whether there are triggers like that. That's a whole nother podcast to talk about. But staying with this. So I did that. And at 10 o'clock, she went, "Look, I'm really sorry, Vicki, but I have to close and lock up. I don't want to end this conversation. Will you come tomorrow?" And it turned out they were just down the road in the village. And I went down there and I sat with her and I talked for another 3 hours. And at the end, I felt that I had gone, "Oh, this is everything that I've been holding on to."
Wow.
And because I did that first, washing away all the nasty stuff, getting rid of all the festering thoughts and the negativity and everything, it was just at the surface, I have to tell you. But it cleared it all away. And then I got practical, right? What do I need to do? So we set up in my parents' back room as a temporary measure. And we had to deal with all sorts of weird stuff, like him coming round and stalking. Mm-hmm. He attacked my father at work and put him in hospital.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it all just went horribly wrong. So then there was some police involved. Then there was the courts were involved. And then there was the the next level of nasty, which is when you've got children with someone, the prevailing view is that it is in the child's interest to know their own other parent and for them to make decisions about that other parent, even though you as a parent may know that that parent's bad for these 3 reasons, these 10 reasons, whatever. None of that will matter to the court. So nothing mattered about drinking or violence. None of that mattered. It's about giving the child the chance to have a relationship so that they don't create their own imaginary relationship, and it's better for their health as much as you hate it. So
Yeah.
accept that if your other partner wants to maintain a relationship, and if they are of the coercive kind, they will, because now they can use the children as a way to coerce you still. You then have to put a step in the middle. And so what we did originally was we had, again, with the help of, with the council and the courts, we had supervised visits where he was made to prove that he would show up on time, play nicely with the children. And we went to a special village hall. Both of us had to travel. It took me an hour to take the children on public transport to this local village hall. And then there were all these little squares set out with upside down chairs rather, to make barriers to hold the children in. So all of these parents were in corners of the room with these little squares of chairs holding their relatively whatever age their kids were in these contained areas so they didn't keep running off, and then a few toys in there that they played with. And I think it must have been extremely strange for my girls, but they were very little and I don't know that they have memory of that. And once he'd proved himself there, then the courts allowed the next phase and said, okay, you can now go and collect the children from a place. And I know a lot of people at this point tend to bring in their parents to help. And my mother did that. My mother did the handovers on the doorstep. So I never had to see him. And when we finally moved out of my parents' house, which, you know, that's what I focused on, getting us a home, we moved out of my parents' house. He did have a go at stalking us there. And it was all a bit strange. But I felt that the longer I was away from him and the more I did as Vicki, and it's strange, I'm going to talk about myself in a sort of a third party, but I am Vicki. I was Vicki until I was, say, 19 when I met him. I was Vicki. Then I gradually became less Vicki. Maybe I lost the V and the I and the C and the K, and I just became I at the end of it or something. And then the further I got away from him, I rebuilt me again till I became Vicki again. I became whole, and therefore I was stronger. And so when I then was living in my own property with the girls, I could do the handover at the door. I had that strength. And I also knew that if ever there was any problem, I could go back, you know, no, this isn't working for me. We need to go back the other way. But I got that strength that comes with distance, that strength that comes with surrounding yourself with people that see the true you and have no other agenda other than to love and support you. There will be people that you meet that don't like you, and that's fine. They'll just wander off in your life. They won't stay there and try and put you down. That's the difference. You know, when you meet someone you don't get on with, you don't tend to meet them again. You just move away from them. But when you end up in a home because you live in a relationship with one of them, that's more challenging. And so I just worked on it. I went to university, I got a degree, then I got a master's degree, then I got a job as a university lecturer, and now I run my own businesses. I've written 5 books, contributed to other books. I think we've done 50 odd podcasts over the last 5 or so months of lockdown. My daughters are incredible, and my eldest daughter has now 2 grandchildren. She ran her own job. She lives in a house that she owns with her partner, and they're doing really well. And my other daughter is a 6th year medical student. And I honestly believe that my girls are the humans they are now, and the amazing humans they are now, because I had the courage to go then. And had I not had the courage to go then, who might I have been? What sort of a role model would I have been? And would that role model have been enough for these girls to take the strength, see the strength? I don't know. Would these
Yeah.
little girls that were 1 and 3 have been who they are now in their shockingly old 30s? I have to start lying about the girl's age. I really do. But, you know, in that period of time, would they have become the women that they are now, that I am so immensely proud of, had I not had the courage to make that decision now? And are you listening to this because actually you know that you're in a relationship that is some degree of coercive, that you feel, if you feel trapped or anything like that, you have to find someone that you can speak to, or you have to find that strength and you have to go yourself, and know that you are right to do that for your own safety, for your own future, for your own sanity, for your own being, because you are born to be more than someone who puts you down and cages you in, and we all are.
Wow, that was just an incredible story. And just, you know, you talking about what you've done after and you finding Vicki again. I love that. One of the other things that really resonated with me is you talked about finding people that build you up. And we all need these people in our lives. It could be family members, but sometimes people have toxic family members. It could be friends. It could we just need to find these people that build us up, and we need to turn to them when things aren't well. And we need to use them as a sounding board and say, you know, what do you think in this situation, so that we can keep our compass, so to speak, in pointing in the right direction, and we can keep ourselves intact and whole. And when things are not, things need to change. We may need to cut people out of our lives. So I
Definitely.
love your story. I love that you were so vulnerable to share that with everyone. And I know there's people out there hearing this message because they need to hear it right now, and they need to draw on the strength from what you've done and say, I can do this too. It can be better for me. I can find myself again.
Mm.
So Vicki, how do people reach you if they need to reach out to you?
Well, if you can spell my name, you'll find me. So it's Vicki, and my last name is Wusche, Wusche. You'll find me on all social media channels. You'll be able to find the books on Amazon. Yeah, I mean, the podcasts and all sorts of ways that you can find me. There's loads of material out there that's free. Obviously, a lot of it is around my business, which is property investing, or, you know, business mentoring. But actually what I'm really about is helping people to live the life they want to live. And that's why I was really interested to come on your podcast, because although it's not about property investing or business development, it is about, and I have a soft spot for women. It is about helping people shine, be able to follow their compass. As you said, I liked your use of the word compass. You know, we have a compass. We know where our true north is.
We do.
And if someone is pulling you off, sometimes you get pulled off for love, and what you get pulled off into is something that's wonderful, and maybe it lasts or maybe it's short-lived. And if that happens, that's absolutely great for you. But if you're getting pulled off from something that is negative and corrosive and stopping you be that amazing person you are, please, anybody reach out to, I mean, to you, to me, there are so many people that will be there to help and support you. You will be amazed, but you have to ask, because people don't know it, because you're hiding it.
Yes, you need help.
Nobody,
You need to reach
you're
out.
hiding it. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you, Vicki, so much for being on. I know that this is reaching people that need to hear it and that need the help, and there's help there. There's always help, and you can Google it and you can find hotlines to call and just start.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Vicki. And
Thank you.
thank you everyone for joining us for another episode. Please come and join us again soon. Take care.